Jungkook's secret song is finally sung to Jimin. The lyrics are too deep to hide musical score heart. With Arrow, the first note shatters the silence like glass, and Jimin whispers, "That song, why does it sound like you're saying goodbye?" The studio lights flicker as Jungkook's fingers freeze above the piano keys, the last chord still vibrating in the air, warm and dangerous, as if it has just confessed something neither of them is ready to hear. The room smells faintly of dust and old wood, the kind of practice room that remembers secrets better than people do. Jungkook swallows, his throat tight, his heartbeat loud enough to drown out the hum of the speakers. He hadn't planned to play this song. He never did. Yet here it is, breathing between them. Jimin stands a few steps away, hoodie sleeves pulled over his hands, eyes fixed not on Jungkook's face but on the piano, as if the instrument itself might answer him. There is something raw in his posture, a careful stillness that Jungkook knows too well. It's the stillness Jimin wears when he's afraid of the truth. "I told you I was working on something new," Jungkook says, voice low, almost apologetic. He doesn't look up. Looking at Jimin now would mean admitting what every lyric is carved from. "I didn't say who it was for." Jimin lets out a quiet laugh that doesn't quite land. "You never do." Jungkook's hands tremble as he lowers them onto the keys again. The song resumes, softer now, stripped of pretense. Each note feels like a memory pressed into sound, late-night ramen cups stacked by the sink, shared headphones on long flights, the way Jimin's smile always arrived a second after his eyes decided to trust. Jungkook has always written music like this, obsessively, as if translating his feelings into melody might keep them from spilling out in real life. His fear has a habit of hiding behind perfection. As the chorus begins, his voice cracks, not loudly, but enough. Enough for Jimin to lift his head. The lyrics aren't vague. They don't hide behind metaphors or clever turns of phrase. They speak of waiting, of choosing silence over risk, of loving someone so deeply it feels safer to pretend it's nothing at all. Jungkook feels exposed, like his singing without skin. The sound of his own breath between lines feels too intimate, too close. Jimin's eyes glisten, and that is what finally makes Jungkook look at him. The years between them flood back in fragments. Jungkook remembers being younger, quieter in his own way, hiding behind discipline and relentless self-improvement. He learned early that wanting too much could ruin everything. Jimin, on the other hand, learned how to smile through uncertainty, how to give warmth even when he wasn't sure he would receive it back. Somewhere along the way, Jungkook started to rely on that warmth like oxygen and told himself it was just friendship, just comfort, just habit. The song ends without drama, no final flourish, just a soft unresolved chord that hangs in the air like a question neither of them dares to ask out loud. For a long moment, neither speaks. "I've heard you sing thousands of times," Jimin finally says, his voice barely steady, "but I've never heard you like that." Jungkook exhales, shoulders sagging as if he's been carrying something heavy for years and has only just set it down. "Because I wasn't supposed to." The admission surprises them both. Jimin steps closer, slow, careful, as if sudden movement might scare the truth back into hiding. "Is it about fear?" he asks, though his eyes say he already knows the answer. Jungkook nods. "And timing. And the kind of love that doesn't ask for permission." Jimin's lips part, then press together again. He has his own ghosts, his own doubts. He has always wondered why Jungkook pulled away right after getting close, why moments that felt almost romantic dissolved into distance by morning. Hearing this song doesn't hurt because it's unexpected, it hurts because it confirms what his heart has suspected all along. "You could have told me," Jimin says softly. Jungkook's laugh is breathless, broken. "I was afraid that if I said it out loud, it would stop being safe. Music was the only place it could exist without consequences." Jimin reaches out then, fingers brushing the edge of the piano, close enough that Jungkook can feel the heat of his presence. The room feels smaller, charged. "And now?" Jimin asks. Jungkook closes his eyes. The answer has been inside him for years, humming beneath every melody. "Now I don't know how to put it back." There is no dramatic confession, no kiss, no neatly tied resolution. Just two people standing in the aftermath of honesty, breathing the same air, feeling the weight of something irreversible. The song has been sung, and with it, a door has opened that can never be fully closed again. Outside the studio, the world continues as usual. Staff footsteps in the hallway, distant laughter, the faint echo of another song being rehearsed. Inside, Jungkook and Jimin remain still, suspended in a fragile moment where truth has finally found its voice, and both of them must decide what it means to listen. The door clicks shut behind them with a sound that feels louder than it should, and Jimin flinches as if the room has suddenly decided to take sides. "So that's it?" he asks, turning back to Jungkook, his voice sharp now, stripped of its softness. "You sing a song that sounds like a confession, you look at me like that, and then you just stop?" Jungkook runs a hand through his hair, pacing once, twice, like a trapped animal. "I didn't stop," he says. "I'm still here." "No," Jimin snaps, stepping closer, close enough that Jungkook can see the faint tremor in his jaw. "You're hiding again. You always do this. You open something, just enough for me to see inside, and then you slam the door before I can say anything." The words hit harder than Jungkook expects. He opens his mouth, closes it, then forces himself to meet Jimin's gaze. "Because every time I let myself want more, I risk ruining everything," he says. "Our work. Our trust. You." Jimin laughs, but there's no humor in it. "You don't get to decide that alone." Silence stretches between them, thick and uncomfortable. Jungkook feels it press against his ribs, the familiar panic rising. He has always been good at enduring pain quietly, convincing himself that suffering in silence is a kind of strength. But Jimin has never accepted that logic. "You think I didn't hear it?" Jimin continues, his voice lowering, more dangerous now because it's calm. "The way your voice broke. The way you hesitated on my name in the lyrics. Do you really think I'm that stupid?" Jungkook shakes his head slowly. "I think you're too kind," he says. "And I was afraid you'd give me an answer I wasn't ready to face." Jimin's eyes darken. "And what if I was afraid too?" he asks. "What if I was waiting for you to be brave enough to stop hiding behind melodies?" The accusation stings because it's true. Jungkook exhales, long and shaky. "I grew up believing that love was something you earned by being perfect," he admits. "Every mistake felt like proof that I didn't deserve it. So I learned how to control everything. My voice. My body. My feelings. You're the one thing I've never been able to control." Jimin's expression softens just a fraction, but the tension doesn't disappear. "Then why does it feel like you're punishing me for that?" The question lands like a blow to the chest. "I'm not," Jungkook says quickly. "I swear I'm not. I was punishing myself." Jimin looks away, jaw tightening, as if he's fighting the urge to say something he's been holding back for far too long. When he looks back, his eyes are wet but fierce. "Do you know how many times I almost asked you?" he says. "How many nights I replayed moments in my head, wondering if I imagined the way you looked at me, the way your hand lingered just a second too long?" Jungkook's throat burns. "I saw it too," he whispers. "Every time." "Then why didn't you say anything?" "Because I was scared that if I did, you'd see how selfish I am," Jungkook says. "That I wanted you in ways I wasn't allowed to want anyone." Jimin steps even closer now, the air between them charged, electric. "You don't get to decide what I'm allowed to feel," he says, voice trembling with restrained anger. "Or what risks I'm willing to take." The room feels unbearably small. Jungkook can hear his own heartbeat, loud and erratic. "This isn't just about us," he says, trying to hold on to reason. "People watch us. Everything we do gets twisted, analyzed, torn apart." Jimin's smile is sharp, almost bitter. "So you thought pretending nothing was happening would protect me?" he asks. "Because from where I'm standing, it just made everything hurt more." The honesty in his voice cracks something open in Jungkook. He stops pacing. He stops thinking. "I never meant to hurt you," he says, barely audible. "You're the last person I'd ever want to hurt." "Then stop treating me like I'm fragile," Jimin says. "I'm not." Another pause. This one feels different. Less like a standoff, more like the edge of a cliff they're both standing on. Jungkook swallows. "If I say it out loud," he says, "there's no taking it back." Jimin holds his gaze, unwavering. "I know." The confession doesn't come as a dramatic declaration. It comes quietly, almost reluctantly, like something that has been waiting too long to be released. "I wrote that song because I love you," Jungkook says. Not as a concept. Not as a safe idea. I love you in a way that scares me. Jimin's breath catches, a sharp inhale that betrays him. For a moment, he looks stunned, like the world has tilted under his feet. Then he lets out a shaky laugh, eyes shining with unshed tears. You really are unbelievable, he says softly. Is that a bad thing? Jungkook asks. Jimin shakes his head, stepping closer until there's barely any space left between them. It's terrifying, he admits. And relieving. And infuriating. All at once. Jungkook's hands curl into fists at his sides, resisting the urge to reach out. I don't expect anything from you, he says. I just couldn't keep lying. Jimin studies his face, as if searching for any sign of doubt or insincerity. Whatever he finds there makes his expression soften. You should know, he says quietly, that hearing it doesn't make things easier. Jungkook nods. I didn't think it would. But it makes them honest, Jimin continues. And I think I deserve that. So do you, Jungkook replies. For a brief, fragile moment, neither speaks. The tension doesn't disappear, but it changes, turning into something raw and intimate. Jimin finally reaches out, not touching Jungkook, but close enough that his knuckles brush against Jungkook's sleeve. The contact is accidental, yet it sends a jolt through both of them. We're standing on dangerous ground, Jimin says. I know, Jungkook answers. Jimin meets his eyes again, a small, brave smile breaking through the emotion. Then maybe, he says, it's time we stop pretending we're not. The moment stretches, fragile and electric, until the sound of hurried footsteps echoes faintly in the hallway outside, snapping the tension into something sharper, more dangerous. Jimin pulls his hand back first, eyes flicking toward the door. You hear that? He murmurs. Jungkook nods, jaw tightening. Staff. Or management? Jimin exhales a humorless laugh. Of course. Reality always shows up at the worst time. The footsteps pass, but the fear they leave behind doesn't. It settles between them like a third presence, reminding them of everything they are and everything they're not allowed to be. So what now? Jimin asks, folding his arms, not defensively but to keep himself from shaking. You've said it. You've crossed the line you were so scared of. Jungkook's eyes darken. I didn't cross it alone, he says quietly. You were already standing there with me. That's not fair, Jimin shoots back. You don't get to pull me into this and then act like it's shared responsibility. Jungkook flinches. I'm not blaming you. Then what are you doing? Jimin demands, his voice rising despite himself. Because from where I'm standing, it feels like you finally told the truth and now you're bracing for me to walk away. Jungkook clenches his fists. I'm bracing for everything, he says. For backlash. For rumors. For losing control over something I've spent my whole life managing. Jimin's eyes burn. And what about losing me? He asks, the question raw and unguarded. The words hit harder than any accusation. Jungkook steps forward without thinking. That's the one thing I can't survive, he admits. And that's exactly why I stayed silent. Jimin laughs bitterly. You stayed silent and still almost lost me, he says. Do you know how lonely it is to feel something so deeply and keep telling yourself you imagined it? I never wanted you to feel alone, Jungkook says, voice breaking. I watched you smile for everyone else while I stood there pretending I wasn't the reason. Your eyes kept searching the room. Jimin's breath hitches. Then why didn't you stop me? He asks. Why didn't you pull me aside and say, it's not in your head? Because I was afraid that if I gave you hope, I'd be stealing your freedom, Jungkook says. You deserve a choice, not a secret. Jimin steps closer again, anger and vulnerability colliding in his expression. And you think I didn't feel trapped by your silence? He asks. You think not knowing didn't mess with my head? The room feels hotter, charged with unspoken truths. Jungkook meets his gaze, refusing to look away this time. I messed up, he says plainly. I know that. But I'm standing here now because I'm done choosing safety over honesty. Jimin studies him for a long moment, eyes searching, measuring. Say it again, he says suddenly. Jungkook blinks. What? Say it, Jimin repeats, voice low and intense. Not like a lyric. Not like a confession whispered into music. Say it to my face. Jungkook's chest tightens. Every instinct screams to retreat, to soften it, to hide behind ambiguity. Instead, he takes a breath that feels like a leap off a cliff. I love you, he says. I have for a long time. I tried to turn it into discipline, into loyalty, into anything that didn't look like love, but it never worked. Jimin's eyes fill instantly. You're cruel, he says softly, though there's no real anger left in his voice. You know that. Jungkook swallows. I know. Jimin shakes his head, laughing through tears. All this time, he says. I kept telling myself you were just intense, protective, that it was nothing personal. It was always personal, Jungkook says, the words hang heavy between them. Jimin wipes his eyes with the sleeve of his hoodie, then looks back up, expression steadier but no less emotional. You don't get to say something like that and expect me to pretend everything's normal, he says. I'm not asking you to, Jungkook replies. Good, Jimin says. Because I can't. Another silence follows, but it's different now, less defensive, more exposed. Jimin takes a step back, creating space, not distance. I'm angry, he admits. I'm relieved. I'm scared. And a part of me wants to scream at you for waiting so long. Jungkook nods. You should. But, Jimin continues, voice softer, another part of me feels like I can finally breathe. Jungkook's eyes soften at that. Me too. Jimin looks at the piano, then back at Jungkook. That song, he says. You didn't finish it. Jungkook hesitates. I couldn't finish it, Jimin says firmly. Not for the world. Not for an audience. For me. Jungkook sits slowly, hands hovering over the keys again. His fingers feel steadier now, grounded by honesty rather than fear. He plays the final verse, voice low, intimate, stripped of performance. The lyrics speak of choosing courage over silence, of standing still even when the ground shakes, of loving someone openly even if the ending is uncertain. When the last note fades, Jungkook looks up to find Jimin watching him with an expression so open it almost hurts. That's not a goodbye, Jimin says. Jungkook shakes his head. It never was. Jimin steps forward and, this time, doesn't stop himself from reaching out. His hand closes around Jungkook's wrist, warm and steady. Then don't disappear on me again, he says. No more hiding. Jungkook covers Jimin's hand with his own, the contact grounding, real. I won't, he promises. Even when it gets messy. Jimin exhales, a small, genuine smile breaking through the tension. Good, he says. Because it already is. They stand there together, not resolved, not safe, but finally honest, two hearts exposed in a world that demands masks, choosing, for once, not to put them back on. The knock comes without warning, 3 sharp raps that slice through the fragile calm, and both of them freeze Jungkook. A voice calls from the other side of the door. Familiar. Too familiar. We need you. Now. Jimin's hand slips from Jungkook's wrist instantly, not out of fear but instinct, years of training kicking in before emotion can catch up. The space between them widens again, but the tension doesn't fade, it sharpens, turns dangerous. Jungkook stands, shoulders squared, face carefully neutral as he opens the door. The manager's eyes flick from Jungkook to Jimin, lingering just a second too long, sharp with suspicion. Emergency meeting, the manager says. Someone leaked a clip. Studio audio. Jimin's breath catches. Jungkook feels it hit his chest like a punch. What kind of clip? The manager doesn't answer immediately. You should hear it yourself. The conference room smells like stale coffee and anxiety. A tablet lies on the table, screen dark but waiting. When the audio plays, Jungkook recognizes it instantly, his voice, raw and unfiltered, singing the unfinished chorus. Not the whole song. Just enough. Enough to hurt. This surfaced online 20 minutes ago, the manager says tightly. Speculation is already exploding. People are saying it sounds personal. Intimate. Jimin stiffens beside Jungkook. It is personal, he says before he can stop himself. Every head in the room snaps toward him. Jungkook's heart drops. Jimin, so what? Jimin continues, voice shaking but loud. Are we supposed to lie again? Pretend it means nothing? The room erupts. This isn't about meaning, the manager snaps. It's about control. Jungkook feels anger flare, hot and unfamiliar. Control over what? He asks. My voice. My feelings. This brand, the manager says. Your image. Both of you. Jimin lets out a sharp laugh. Funny how the image matters more than the people inside it. Silence crashes down, heavy and uncomfortable. The manager exhales slowly. You're emotional. I get it. But this is bigger than no, Jungkook cuts in, his voice steady but dangerous. What's bigger is how long we've been afraid to breathe. Jimin turns to him, eyes wide, something like hope flickering beneath the fear. The manager's gaze hardens. Are you saying there's something to hide? Jungkook doesn't look away. I'm saying there's something real. The words hang in the air like a challenge. After the meeting dissolves into strained warnings and vague threats, they walk out together, shoulders brushing, neither daring to touch. The hallway feels longer than usual, every step echoing with what they've just risked. I end the stairwell, away from cameras. Jimin stops abruptly. You didn't have to say that. Jungkook turns. I wanted to. Jimin's eyes search his face, desperate and fierce. They could tear us apart for this. They already are, Jungkook says. I'm just done helping them. Jimin swallows hard. I don't know if I'm as brave as you think. Jungkook steps closer, voice low. You don't have to be brave alone. Jimin laughs softly, tears threatening again. You say things like that like you're not the one who ran for years. I know, Jungkook says. And I hate myself for it. Jimin shakes his head. Then stop hating yourself and start staying. The words are quiet, devastating. Jungkook reaches out, hesitates for a fraction of a second, then cups Jimin's wrist, not hidden, not careful. I'm here, he says. Even if everything burns. Jimin closes his eyes at the touch, breathing him in. If this explodes, he whispers, there's no going back. Jungkook leans closer, forehead nearly touching Jimin's. I don't want to go back. For a moment, the world feels like it's holding its breath with them, two people standing on the edge of scandal, fear, and something impossibly tender, choosing truth in a place that has never forgiven honesty easily. And somewhere online, the song keeps playing, spreading like a spark, daring them both to see what happens when secrets finally refuse to stay buried. The night fractures faster than either of them expects. By the time Jungkook's phone vibrates for the fifth time in his pocket, the air around them already feels poisoned. Jimin notices first. He always does. He watches Jungkook's jaw tighten, the way his thumb hovers before unlocking the screen, as if touching it will make everything real. Is it bad? Jimin asks quietly. Jungkook exhales through his nose. It's everywhere. They retreat into the empty practice room again, shutting the door like it might keep the world out. Jungkook scrolls in silence for a long moment, then hands the phone to Jimin. Jimin's breath stutters as he reads. Speculation. Edits. Slowed audio. People dissecting a few seconds of Jungkook's voice like it's a crime scene. Some are romanticizing it. Some are mocking it. Some are angry, demanding explanations for feelings they believe they own. They think it's about someone outside, Jimin murmurs. A woman. A breakup. Jungkook lets out a short, humorless laugh. They always do. Jimin scrolls further, then freezes. His fingers curl around the phone. Not all of them. Jungkook knows before he asks. What are they saying? Jimin hesitates, then looks up, eyes dark and conflicted. They're saying it sounds like, us. The word lands between them like a spark dropped into gasoline. That's ridiculous, Jungkook says automatically. Jimin tilts his head. Is it? Jungkook opens his mouth, then stops. The truth presses against his ribs, insistent. No, he admits quietly. It isn't. Jimin hands the phone back, his hands shaking now. This is what you were afraid of, he says. This is exactly it. And yet, Jungkook replies, voice low, I don't regret singing it. Jimin stares at him, disbelief and emotion colliding. How can you say that so easily? Because for the first time, Jungkook says, stepping closer, I don't feel like I'm lying when I breathe. Jimin laughs softly, but it breaks halfway through. You're insane. Maybe, Jungkook says. Or maybe I'm just tired. The room feels too small for everything Jimin is feeling, fear, anger, relief, longing. I spent years convincing myself I was imagining things, he says. Do you know how humiliating that is? To think you're special to someone, only to tell yourself you're arrogant for even hoping? Jungkook's chest tightens. I never wanted you to doubt yourself. But you did, Jimin snaps, heat flashing in his eyes. Every time you pulled away. Every time you went cold after being close. I was trying to survive, Jungkook says sharply. I didn't realize I was killing something in the process. Jimin's voice drops, dangerous and honest. You were killing us. The word hangs there, undeniable. Jungkook doesn't argue. He steps forward until there's barely any space left. Then let me bring it back, he says. However it looks. However messy it gets. Jimin's breath trembles. You say that now, but when the pressure hits, when they start telling us what to deny, what to erase, you'll feel it again. The fear. Of course I will, Jungkook answers. But this time, I won't let it make my decisions for me. Jimin searches his face like he's trying to see the future written there. And what about me, he asks. What if I can't be as strong as you need? Jungkook's voice softens. I don't need you to be strong. I need you to be here. Jimin looks away, blinking fast. You're really doing this, he whispers. You're choosing the truth over the safest lie. Jungkook nods. I already chose. The door bursts open suddenly, making them both jump. Another manager, breathless, eyes sharp. We need a statement draft, she says. Immediately. Jungkook, you'll clarify that the song is fictional. Jimin, you'll support it. United front. The silence that follows is suffocating. Jungkook feels Jimin stiffen beside him. He doesn't look at the manager right away. When he does, his expression is calm in a way that surprises even himself. What if I don't? He asks. The manager blinks. What? What if I don't lie? Jungkook repeats. Jimin turns to him sharply. Jungkook, I'm not saying everything. Jungkook continues. I'm not exposing anyone. But I won't erase the meaning of my own song. That's not an option, the manager says coldly. Jungkook finally looks at Jimin. Really looks at him. Is it? He asks softly. Jimin's heart pounds. Every instinct screams danger. But beneath it, something steadier rises. If you deny it, Jimin says slowly, you deny me too. The words slice clean and precise. Jungkook turns back to the manager. Then I guess I don't have an option, he says. The fallout is immediate. Raised voices. Warnings. Threats dressed up as concern. But Jungkook hears none of it clearly. All he hears is Jimin's breathing beside him, uneven but present. Later, much later, they sit alone again, exhaustion heavy between them. Jimin presses his palms into his eyes. I'm scared, he admits. Jungkook reaches out, this time without hesitation, threading their fingers together. So am I. Jimin lets out a shaky laugh. This is so stupid. And yet, Jungkook says, squeezing his hand, it's the most honest I've ever felt. Jimin leans back against the mirror, pulling Jungkook with him until their shoulders touch. If this ruins everything, he murmurs, I'm going to blame you. Jungkook smiles faintly. I'll take it. Jimin turns his head, their faces dangerously close. And if it doesn't? Jungkook's voice is barely a whisper. Then maybe we finally get to live instead of just performing. Jimin closes his eyes, resting his forehead against Jungkook's for one quiet, stolen second. Outside the room, the world is already deciding their story for them. Inside, for the first time, they are choosing it themselves. Morning arrives without mercy. Jungkook wakes to the sound of Jimin's phone buzzing non-stop on the table, the vibration rattling like an alarm they can't shut off. For a split second, there's peace. Jimin's breathing steady beside him, the faint warmth of a shared night spent talking until exhaustion won. Then reality crashes back in. Jimin groans softly and reaches for the phone. The glow illuminates his face, and Jungkook watches the change happen in real time, the way confusion hardens into disbelief, then tightens into something like dread. It's worse, Jimin says quietly. Jungkook sits up, heart already racing. What now? They're saying the company's forcing you to deny it, Jimin replies. And that I'm the reason you're self-destructing. Jungkook's jaw tightens. They always need a villain. Jimin scrolls, lips pressing together. Some of them are angry at me, he admits. They're saying I'm dragging you into something dangerous. Jungkook swings his legs off the couch and stands. That's not true. I know, Jimin says quickly. But knowing doesn't stop it from hurting. Jungkook takes the phone gently from Jimin's hands and sets it face down. Look at me, he says. Jimin does, eyes glassy, defensive walls already rising. What if they're right, he asks. What if this ruins you? Jungkook exhales, slow and deliberate. You don't ruin me, he says. You're the reason I finally stopped pretending I'm fine. Jimin shakes his head. That's not how the world sees it. I'm done letting the world decide who gets blamed for my choices, Jungkook replies. His voice is steady, but there's heat underneath it now. Anger, not reckless, but resolved. A knock slams against the door, loud and impatient. Jungkook. Jimin. We need to talk. Now. The meeting room is colder than usual, air conditioning turned up like punishment. Executives sit across from them, faces tight with calculation. Papers slide across the table, draft statements, carefully worded lies. This is the safest route, one of them says. Jungkook clarifies the song is fictional. Jimin supports it. We move on. Jimin's fingers curl into his palm under the table. Jungkook doesn't touch the papers. And if I don't? The room stills. You will, another voice says sharply. You don't understand the consequences. Jungkook finally leans forward. I understand them perfectly, he says. What you don't understand is that I'm done erasing myself to make this easier. Jimin turns to him, eyes wide. Jungkook meets his gaze. I meant what I said. I won't deny the meaning of my song. One executive scoffs. Meaning is interpretation. No, Jungkook says. Meaning is intention. And that song was written from something real. The tension spikes, electric and volatile. You're risking everything. Someone snaps. Jungkook's voice lowers, dangerous calm settling in. So are you, he says. You're risking losing my trust entirely. Silence. Heavy. Calculating. After the meeting breaks with no resolution, Jimin corners Jungkook in the hallway, heart pounding. Are you trying to burn this down? He whispers urgently. Jungkook stops walking. I'm trying to stop it from burning me. Jimin swallows. I'm scared, he says again, more honestly than before. Not of the fans. Of what happens if you get hurt because of me. Jungkook steps closer, voice fierce and intimate. Listen to me, he says. If anyone gets hurt, it's because the truth makes people uncomfortable. Not because of you. Jimin's eyes fill, anger and relief colliding. You make it sound so simple. It's not, Jungkook admits. But it's necessary. Later that night, alone again, Jimin finally lets the tears fall. He covers his face, shoulders shaking, and Jungkook pulls him in without hesitation, arms tight, grounding. I hate that this is public, Jimin says into his chest. I hate that something so personal turned into a spectacle. I know, Jungkook murmurs, pressing his forehead to Jimin's hair. I wanted to protect you from exactly this. Jimin looks up, eyes red but sharp. Then why do I feel like you're protecting me by standing still instead of running? Jungkook smiles faintly. Because that's what I should have done from the start. Jimin laughs through tears, shaking his head. You're really changing. I'm choosing, Jungkook corrects. There's a difference. Jimin studies him for a long moment, then nods slowly. If this keeps escalating, he says, we won't get to hide anymore. Jungkook's hand tightens at his waist. Then we don't. Jimin's breath catches. Say that again. We don't hide, Jungkook repeats. Not from each other. Not anymore. Jimin leans in, resting his forehead against Jungkook's, voice trembling but certain. If the world keeps pushing, I might break. Then I'll be there when you do, Jungkook answers. And I won't let you break alone. Outside, headlines keep multiplying, opinions sharpening into weapons. Inside, two people hold onto each other, not because it's safe, but because for the first time, it's real. The stage lights bloom slowly, a warm gold instead of the usual blinding white, and for once Jungkook welcomes the way they reveal everything instead of hiding it. The crowd's roar rises and settles like a living thing, restless, waiting. Jimin stands just off to the side, close enough that Jungkook can feel his presence without looking, close enough that the years of almosts finally feel like they've led somewhere. The band quiets. Jungkook steps to the microphone, heart steady in a way that surprises him. He scans the sea of faces and then, finally, turns his head. Jimin meets his eyes, not smiling, not afraid, just there. It's enough. I wrote this song when I thought silence was safer than honesty, Jungkook says into the mic, voice calm, unadorned. I was wrong. The room holds its breath. He plays. The melody is familiar now, but different, finished, grounded. The lyrics don't apologize anymore. They don't circle the truth. They stand in it. He sings about choosing courage even when fear has better arguments, about loving someone without turning them into a secret, about staying when running would be easier. His voice doesn't crack this time. It opens. Somewhere in the crowd, someone cries. Somewhere else, someone cheers. Jungkook sings anyway. When the final note fades, there is a second of stunned quiet before the sound breaks into applause that feels less like noise and more like release. Jungkook lets it wash over him, then looks to Jimin. He doesn't gesture. He doesn't ask. He just waits. Jimin steps forward. It isn't dramatic. No grand declaration. Just two people standing side by side under the lights, shoulders brushing, hands finding each other without thought. The touch is simple and devastatingly clear. Backstage later, the world is still loud, phones buzzing, voices arguing, opinions forming, but it no longer feels like a threat. Jimin leans against the wall, eyes closed, breathing out a laugh that sounds like relief. You know, he says, this was never how I imagined it. Jungkook smiles, tired and real. Me neither. Jimin opens his eyes. Do you regret it? Jungkook thinks of the years spent hiding inside music, of the ache of wanting without choosing, of the way Jimin's hand feels in his now. No, he says. I regret waiting. Jimin nods, accepting that truth without bitterness. We don't know what happens next. Jungkook squeezes his hand. We will. They step into the hallway together, not because everything is solved, not because the world has suddenly become kind, but because love, spoken, sung, chosen, has finally stopped asking for permission, and for the first time, the song doesn't end when the lights go out.